The government's introduced legislation, or will introduce legislation, into the House, as announced by the Minister of Justice, Paul Goldsmith, that will seek a 4-year parliamentary term. Now, I have to be honest with you, I haven't noticed any public clamour around New Zealand for a 4-year parliamentary term. And I have very little doubt that were that to be put to the public of this country, it will be voted down, and overwhelmingly so. But well, just nevertheless, this government has decided, or this particular Minister of Justice, and presumably he got approval from Cabinet on Monday, that this is a priority for the government, a 4-year parliamentary term. Now, as I said, I haven't detected any public clamour for this to occur. All right, and the reasons for a 4-year parliamentary term are all specious. I mean, but that's another issue for another day. But there isn't really a intellectual, academic, reasoned argument as to why a government spending 4 years in charge of the place is better than 3. There is no empirical proof anywhere in the world that longer parliamentary terms lead to better government. Now there's the issue. There isn't any empirical proof anywhere in, well, it's the Western world essentially, because those are the only democratic nations, but there isn't any empirical proof that the longer the parliamentary term, or the term of a particular government, the better the government gets. All right? I often look at the UK as a really good example of that. They've got a 5-year term. Wow. Look at the United Kingdom and its successive range of embarrassing governments over the last, 2 decades? The Americans have got a 4-year parliamentary term, essentially. 6 years for the Senate, 2 years for the House of Representatives. And although they have elections every 2 years, their president serves every 4. Has there been amazing leadership from the presidents of the United States over the last, I don't know, let's just say 40 years, shall we? I think the jury would be out on that, don't you? So why would a 4-year parliamentary term make New Zealand's government better and more accountable, responsible, professional, make better judgments than a 3-year parliamentary term? Okay, so I'm waiting for the empirical evidence overseas and other Western democracies that this is true. Doesn't seem to be any. Okay, next issue. Why is there a referendum on this issue? There is no public clamour, as I said. Oh, there might be a little bit of an argument from the academics who are political studies lecturers. There might be something from, I don't know, the Otago University Political Studies Department, or even I haven't seen them opine on this one. There might be an argument from various senior public services. Oh, there might be an argument in the cocktail surrounds of Kandala and Karori and Kilburn and Wellington when they all get together and talk about how wonderful their $400,000 plus salaries are, and, you know, despite everybody else losing their jobs. Yes, there might be a bit of chatter there, but I'm not detecting from New Zealanders that this is in any way a discernible or important issue in comparison with everything else. No, but it's not just that. We're then going to have a referendum should this legislation be passed. Right, let me get this right. They'll trust us on this issue, this government, but they won't trust us on the Treaty of Waitangi and what it means. So in other words, here we are for the last 50 years watching activist agendas from the public sector, senior public servants obviously, from various politicians, from the judiciary in this country, as to what the Treaty of Waitangi should mean and how it should continue to apply a constrictive straitjacket on any intellectual endeavour that this country might ever seek to achieve in the future. We're not going to have a referendum on that to finally settle what does the treaty mean, because frankly it's a mess at the moment. We're not going to have a no. We couldn't possibly trust the New Zealand public with that But we will trust you with something as prosaic as, should there be a 3 or a 4 year parliamentary term? You know, it is an insult to the intelligence of every born and living New Zealander that they'll give us the minor stuff as some sort of, bone to a dog, but they won't trust us with the major stuff as to how this country's run. Now, to be honest with you, out of the two issues, whether or not Parliament sits for 3 or 4 years, or whether or not the Treaty of Waitangi should continue to have daily sway over our lives in this country, and one particular ethnicity and culture should be treated completely differently than anybody else's, although we can't define how completely differently that is, because the Treaty of Waitangi is still evolving. And oh, by the way, that version of the treaty that you thought was the case for the last 150 years, and so did Saparata and Ata and everybody else, that's been junked because that's written in English. No, we can't have possibly public discussion and then a referendum on that. We'll just give you this one instead. We say we live in a democracy, don't we? We say that the public elect representatives. We even have Parliament known as the House of Representatives, meaning it represents us. But, gee, you come across events like today and you go, you really don't give a stuff about us, do you? You wouldn't have a clue what representation means, would you? You really don't trust the public of New Zealand on any of the big issues, do you? You just throw us a bone. And should we, i.e. the managerial political class of this country, largely established in Wellington, run you for 3 or 4 years? Oh, by the way, the more or the less accountability we have to you, the less elected we are, the more years we have without you getting in the way, would seem much better, because the import of this is that 4 years is better than 3. In other words, the last thing we want is the public of New Zealand to hold our elected representatives accountable. Those are my thoughts. And boy, I've got some thoughts on that one. What are yours?